Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars. King Arthur, Legend of the Sword is the newest movie by Guy Ritchie, and it is based on the Legend of King Arthur stories, and it stars Charlie Hunnam, Jude Law, Eric Bana as well as others. And this is a film I've been quite looking forward to seeing. I know it's bombed at the box office and has had some fairly scathing reviews. So I've not been in a huge rush to see it, but I like a good fantasy type movie. I love things like Conan's, and I even like the Excalibur movie, which is another movie based on the King Arthur legend. Um, so I didn't really have that many concerns about watching this until I watched it. I, this is going to be a very difficult review to do because the movie just mashes your head. But I'll start off by giving you a little bit of the story, the plot here. And we are introduced at the beginning to a huge battle at Camelot. King Uther, played by Eric Bana, he's basically betrayed by his brother, played by Jude Law, Vortigern. And he just manages to get his sons out safe, Arthur. His son is raised on the streets of Londania, in the slums, and he becomes a bit of a wide boy, I suppose. He grows up, he becomes like a king of beggars almost, the Arthur. And he grows up, and the kingdom's in a bit of a mess. The king's ruling with an iron fist. He's a baddie. We get that. Jude Law's the baddie. And circumstances lead Arthur to pulling the sword from the stone, because it's revealed itself again, the sword. The king gets everybody of a certain age to go and try and pull the sword out because he wants to find who Arthur is. And kill him before any revolt can start. And Charlie Hunnam has no idea of who he is and his heritage, and he pulls the sword out of the stone, which leads to a confrontation scene between him and Jude Law in a prison. He manages to escape, and he very reluctantly, accepts his heritage and agrees to fight against Jude Law's Vortigern from his evil doings again with the rebels, to take back his crown, his kingdom, his throne. So that's Scott's story here. I suppose if you're aware of the King Arthur stories, you know the majority of that will not come as any surprise to you. It's an origin story. They don't stray too far from the very basics of the story. Where they do stray too far is, this is like the King Arthur story dialed up to not even 11 but 12, with an absolutely thumping soundtrack that gave me a bloody headache. You couldn't hear yourself think when the soundtrack started. This was like King Arthur on crack. The opening scene itself, there's like massive giant elephants with red eyes crashing into things. There's a huge battle. You don't know what's going on. Uther, Eric Bana's character, brings his battle to a end all on his own by doing some heroic deed. This movie never gives you time to take stock of what's happening, breathe, and the times it does give you to breathe, it's just full of exposition scenes. Very odd exposition scenes, because it didn't need the expositions. You needed to know what were going on, but the way they explained it just did your head in. It was almost like Snatched meets King Arthur. Like, they're going to set up this job and they're going to do this, that and the other, and they're all talking like this, and if we do this, this'll happen, and he'll be there, and this is how we get out, and it's all exposition, but it's just like, oh my god. The actors all in the roles, they all do a decent job. I think Charlie Hunnam as Arthur does deliver the performance that I'm sure Guy Ritchie wanted from him. it just didn't feel a natural like Arthur performance. It was like I say, it's like he was like a wide boy. The way he walked as well, he was like, um, I know he was supposed to be brought up on the streets and stuff, but it just I didn't particularly like his character, although I don't think it was his fault. He didn't act it badly. It was just the direction he was given. They tried to cross this modern, modern fashion with medieval fashion, a bit like Knight's Tale, if you remember that with Heath Ledger. But A Knight's Tale, sorry, did it far better because it blended in a brilliant soundtrack with that as well, and it mixed modern with medieval perfectly. This mixed modern with medieval, and it just looked off. Didn't look comfortable. Londania, when you first see it, looks like ancient Egypt from a distance. The CGI heavy scenes are just bizarre. Some of them. Right at the end, there's a huge battle, and you kind of think, because he has a confrontation with Jude Law at the end, and you kind of think, how is he going to get out of this one? And then a huge snake turns up, just out of nowhere. I mean, the mage creates it, and you're just thinking, well, why didn't they just do that an hour and a half ago instead of all this messing about and all these deaths? It had a strange blend as well of it didn't know whether it wanted to be adult, it didn't know whether it wanted to be family, so consequently at times there was scenes of massive action but not 1 ounce of blood, and then there were other scenes where they were cutting ears off and doing really nasty evil things, and a bit of swearing here and there. So I'm not sure who this was for. Was it meant for families, teens, grown-ups? Because it doesn't really satisfy any of those audiences. Um, it just felt such a mess. But I really felt myself wanting to enjoy it while I was watching it, and there were parts of it that were very entertaining. Some of the action scenes were great to watch, but the music would kick in, and you're just like, oh, not again. Or they'd do something really stupid exposition-wise, and you're just like, oh, not again. I tried so hard to like this movie, but again, it tries so hard back to make you dislike it. A very, very disjointed effort. Very, very hard film to watch. So, see what you think.